It had been years since anyone had seen a sun that wasn't painted orange and red from the ash. The world had been torn apart, and the survivors were scattered across the bleak post-apocalyptic land. Those left coming as far as they could knew they had to fight for their survival. Food was scarce, and the only way to get it was by teaming up with others like them. The first gathering was in a small town in the middle of nowhere. People had been drawn there by word of mouth, meeting in an old abandoned bar. Despite the desolate setting, there was a feeling of hope. This was their first chance to stand a chance against a world that was against them. Troy was one of the first people to arrive. His gray eyes seemingly burned with determination, scanning the faces around him as he stepped into the bar. He had heard from other members of his family that this gathering was important, a chance for survivors to rise up and make something of themselves. "It's about time," one voice called out from the far side of the bar. Troy turned his head to see a tall man wearing a leather jacket walking towards him, hands clasped in front of him. His face seemed to be etched with a permanent look of seriousness. "Who are you?" Troy asked warily. "Jonathan," the stranger replied. "I've been trying to get people together for weeks. We need to find a way to protect against the creatures that have taken over the wasteland." Troy felt a wave of relief. Jonathan had been gathering survivors in order to create a group that was able to protect itself against the monsters that lurked in the night. There were already a handful of people in the barn, and before long the group had grown to about 20. They split into small groups, each with a goal: to find food and resources, gather medical supplies and weapons, scout the surrounding area for other survivors, and even to search for a safe place to live. Troy was placed in a small team of 2 with the task of scavenging for supplies. He was welcomed into the team by an older man, Peter, who had seen the horrors of the wasteland enough times to know what to look for. As they set out into the unknown, Troy thought of the task that had been laid out before them. After all these years, he was going to fight for his survival. After weeks of scavenging, the team managed to amass a large amount of supplies and weapons. They also managed to find a few other survivors along the way who decided to join the group. By the time Troy and the others returned to the barn, the group had grown to nearly 40 people. There was an energy in the barn that was different from weeks ago. Everyone was focused and organized, ready to take on the challenges the wasteland presented them. Together the group created a plan, pooling their resources and knowledge to form a bond that could not be broken. As the weeks and months passed, the group slowly made their way through the destroyed landscape. They encountered danger and also found hope. In the end, Troy and the other survivors found something remarkable: a society that existed in spite of the crumbling world around them. For the first time in what had felt like an eternity, Troy saw light in the future. The survivors had fought long and hard, and through their efforts, they had won the battle for their own survival.
Comment below and subscribe to not miss the next story.